Welcome to the Masterful Coach Podcast with Molly Claire. If you're a coach who's ready to impact more lives, make more money, and create a life you love, you're in exactly the right place. Get the support you deserve as a female entrepreneur. Master your coaching skills, grow your ideal business, and to honor your priorities in your personal life. Are you in? Let's get started with your host, best-selling author and master life and business coach, Molly Claire.
This is a happy day because I get to talk to my friend, my mentor, the most amazing human, Molly Claire. Welcome back, Molly.
Hello. I'm so excited to be here with your amazing listeners doing big, brave things every day, helping the people in their lives. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. You know, I love that you started that way because, I mean, you understand being a divorced single mom, going through doing all this stuff, and it is big, brave things every day. That's what we're doing.
Oh my gosh. It really is, right? It's like, and you know, as women, we just do it. Right. And I think sometimes even we can make it seem effortless, but it's not. It's not at all. It's the real deal.
Yes, we have why we mastered that art of subtly making it look easy. It's just not a good idea. But yes, we do.
It's so funny. I have a friend of mine who was like, yeah, he was talking to me and saying almost like, yeah, you know, well, almost indicating that he's not sure how it's easy for me. And I was like, well, it's not. So
yeah, it's not, although it appears completely to be that way. No.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you coming on today. And you are a master coach. You teach coaches. You have taught me more than I can ever thank you for. And I really just love hearing what you have to say. And so I just want to say, even if you are not a coach, although I know there are coaches, even if you are not a coach, today's conversation is going to be so juicy. And so let's dive into it and keep listening, because you have come here with a beautiful message to share, which I think is relevant to each and every one of us that's trying to do the work and become the best version of ourselves. And so talk to me about how we do that.
Yeah. So, you know, all of you here listening, there are things in your life you want to change and improve. Your co-parenting relationship. You want to improve the way you show up as a mom. Maybe you want to hit certain goals in your income, in your life, your health, whatever it is. And so, you know, what I do is while I work with coaches, I'm working with coaches who are helping people just like you to implement change and growth in your life. And the work that I do is helping them to understand how to support you. So here you are trying to make change in life. And I know oftentimes the question that we can ask ourselves is, where do I begin? Right? Do I need a really good action strategy? How am I going to be held accountable to that? What are the things I need to do to make this better? Right. And then many of you are also aware that there are some emotional needs, ways that you need support emotionally to be able to integrate changes. We're hearing more and more about the way we believe, how we think, and mindset. And I know Mikki talks about that here. And so I think with change and already often feeling challenging to do, then there becomes that question of what's the best way to approach it. And so really, in short, what I say is there are many ways to approach it. And what my hope is, my message for all of you is to give you a little bit of understanding into the different options of how you can help yourself move forward and integrate change, and really understand today maybe what's the best step for you personally.
Perfect. So how do we do that?
Okay, let's do it. Keep going. Okay, so I'm going to break this down into 4 important aspects of you as a human being when it comes to implementing change. So let's talk first about mindset, thoughts, beliefs, right? And I know, Mikki, you talk about this all the time with your clients
and
your listeners, right?
Yes, I'm sure they're sick of hearing it, but today you get to hear it from someone better than I say it. So keep listening.
I don't know about that. But I think it's important because it's important and it's one piece of the big.
One piece.
But I'm going to talk about it first and then we're going to move on to the next. So the way we think about our life creates our experience of our life. Mm-hmm. If we are thinking about a relationship in our life as contentious and being ready for a fight, we're going to show up contentious, ready for a fight. Mm-hmm. If we believe that we are not capable of doing a great job raising our kids on our own, we will struggle more because we have that belief, right? Mm-hmm. So the way we think about our life matters, the way we believe about ourselves matters. And I also want to point out that while that idea can seem helpful, it can also seem super overwhelming because how do I begin to change this, right? Like, how do I begin to believe I'm more capable? How do I begin to let go of this idea that this co-parenting relationship is contentious when I have a lot of experience that shows me that it is, right?
Right. Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I want to speak to that person that's like, yeah, I know, but, right? It's, yes, I know I shouldn't think this way, but, right? Because these are neural pathways that just get used over and over and over and over. And the more used it is, the more sort of deep the groove is in our brain, actually. And then we just go to it more. So it's not as simple. And that's what I love you're going to be talking about. I'm not, as we go through this conversation, it's not as simple to just say, well, don't think that way or just believe this way, right?
Right.
We can't
and it
just
can be
do
more
that.
Frustrating sometimes, right?
Yes. Oh, when someone tells you just not to do that or not think that, it's frustrating.
And sometimes it can seem like pie in the sky thinking or wearing rose-colored glasses. So I want to be clear to all of you, that's not what I'm suggesting, and it's never going to work.
Right.
And also, if you're hearing this and thinking, oh, well, it's my fault because I am thinking this is contentious. And because I am thinking this, it's my fault that I'm doing such a crappy job. None of this is your fault.
Right.
All this is you have experiences in your life and your brain makes those and your brain turns them into thoughts that seem to be absolute beliefs that become mindsets. It just happens. You're not doing anything wrong. None of this is your fault. And mindset and addressing it in the right way can be one of the ways you can implement change.
100%.
So, and well, I think maybe for the sake of helping those, your listeners one at a time, maybe we can, that's what we'll say about that. And then we can circle back to it in practical terms as we move forward. Sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm always mindful of, I know this can be overwhelming and it's like, okay, the last thing we all need is one more thing to overwhelm us, right? So
correct. Okay. So mindset, one avenue.
Yes, one avenue. And there are many things we can do to make shifts in the way we think, not in a rose-colored glasses way, but in ways that truly serve you and help you to experience more ease in your life, which is nice to know, right?
It is nice to know.
Yeah.
All right. So what's the second one?
Okay. So the second one is awareness of, sometimes I refer to this as your emotion set, like we hear about mindset, but your emotion set, kind of your go-to emotions that you seem to experience regularly. And even just thinking about that, like as I say that, it would be interesting for all of you listening to think, what are kind of my go-to emotions? Where do I live emotionally a lot of the time?
It is an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah. And yes, there's a connection between the thoughts and feelings, right? And our thoughts will create feelings for us. But if we just separate it out, it's important to notice what are your go-to emotions, because sometimes just understanding that can allow you a starting point for cultivating a new emotion set, right? An emotion set that will feel better, that will serve you better. And so emotion set, and then also just this idea that within you as a human being, within your emotions, there are emotions within you that need to be attended to. And I'll talk more about this, but this idea that emotions are meant to be felt. They need to be processed. grieving needs to happen, crying needs to happen. And so if, for example, we contrast this with trying to just do mind over matter and change my thoughts and my mindset, but we're doing that as a means of hoping we can just eliminate the need to feel these feelings or process, it's not going to work, and it actually keeps you more stuck.
100%. 100%. And I can say from personal years, decades, maybe, of personal experience of trying to avoid the feelings.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yes.
It
Let me
doesn't
think
work.
my way out of these feelings.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work.
Doesn't.
It can be a band-aid for a while, but then you pay the price, right? Those emotions under there, they've got to come out. Yeah.
I heard someone say the other day, trying to think our way out of the feelings is like putting a band-aid on a bullet hole.
Yeah. Oh my
And
gosh.
it was like,
yeah.
I mean, just that visual, it's like, yeah, it's, I mean, for a second, right? You might get some protection and relief, but ultimately it just blocks the healing. So
that's
I just wanted to share that.
Exactly. So that's the other piece as you're thinking about changes you want to make in your life.
Molly, it froze. Sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so angry at this. It was when you're thinking about implementing changes. So if you could start there.
Okay. Sure. So when you're thinking about implementing changes, right? Of course, there's mindset, there's your outlook, and then there's also attending to emotional needs that you may have. And there are a lot of ways we can do that. But right now, just thinking about my emotion set, where do my emotions normally go? And are there some emotions, some tears, or some grieving within me that needs to be attended to in order for me to move forward?
Yeah.
So that's number 2.
That's a big one. Number 2. Got it. Okay. What's number 3?
Okay. Number 3 is there are emotions that need to be processed. And then there is a nervous system that all of us have. And our nervous system can have some pretty big responses at times, right? We can, our sympathetic nervous system can get activated. A lot of us have heard terms like fight or flight, freeze or fawn, right? These trauma responses, nervous system activation. And I think it's important to be aware of nervous system activation and what it looks like for you.
Okay.
And so, for example, with your listeners, if they may have some triggering experiences when they are trying to co-parent and something happens and they feel immediately heightened. And yes, there's emotion there, but there's more of a triggered response where there are things happening in their body that are somewhat, I mean, really out of their control, very automatic, right? So we have to be aware of that, because if we're trying to process emotions or work with our mindset, when we're having this activation, that activation of the nervous system means that we're losing access to the part of our brain that can be rational, that can be reasonable, that can be creative, that can be strategic. So it would be like trying to solve this huge mystery of how to co-parent better when we can't even act. So for that piece, are you aware of what your nervous system responses are like? Do you recognize them? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're just going to go through them.
Right?
I know.
We need to just do like a 6-month series, and we can just talk about this every week and help everyone with all of it. Okay. So then the fourth thing that's super important to take into account as you are implementing changes in your life and growth and moving forward is the right kind of action strategy. Because sometimes we think the solution to change is always going to be action, when action is a part of it, but sometimes starting with the mindset or with the emotion set or with better nervous system regulation is actually what's going to make different actions just happen naturally. And so, and the reason I say the right type of actions is because we can also set ourselves up to fail miserably at taking new actions
Mhm.
when we're setting them up in a way where it's absolute, where there's perfectionism, or we're expecting ourselves to take actions that don't even fit with like our style of how we are. Like a perfect example of this would be someone who is, taking on an action plan that works very well for someone who's very type A and very organized and very absolute. And, this person is more creative and more free flowing, and they're trying to put in place a strategy that doesn't even match them. And then they just feel like an utter failure. And then they, of course, collect more evidence that they will never be able to get it together. Right. Is this like,
Right.
this is a familiar,
Oh,
familiar.
100%. I was just thinking about, it's sort of for all the craze was like morning, doing your morning routine, having this amazing morning routine and getting up early and doing it. And listen, I prescribe to it all day long because I'm an early morning person.
That's
Right.
right.
Since
That's
I was
right.
like 6, I jump out of bed. The early bird gets the worm, right? Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
just who I am. So for me, no brainer. For my clients who like don't actually like to get up early or do their best work late at night, right?
Yeah.
It's learning. I think what you're saying is when we try to shove ourselves in a box of this thing that's going to work and then it
That's
doesn't,
right.
we just heap all the judgment, all the shame, and all the more evidence of why we can't do it.
Exactly. Exactly. And we're trying to build a habit. I want to highlight, yes, that, right? Don't put yourself in a box. Make sure that you're having solutions and strategies that actually fit and work for you, number one. And I think also sometimes we're trying to build a habit or an action pattern before we even have established it. And so it's like implementing change takes some energy, right? And so like every day, so I brush my teeth several times a day. It doesn't take any effort from me. It's very automatic. When I go in and I get my toothbrush, I'm thinking about everything else other than brushing my teeth because it's automatic, right? But think about how hard it is to get your kids to brush their teeth because they don't want to, because they're not in the mode of it, right? And so I always think if the amount of effort that it takes to create a new habit and make it automatic is a little bit significant. It takes some focus and some effort from us. And oftentimes the reason we quit is because a part of us believes it's always going to be that hard and it's always going to take that much effort. And that seems exhausting. So we quit. So I think instead, when we can first identify the type of action strategies that are actually going to be effective for you, and then build in this space of saying, during this time, I give more energy to building this habit and I only focus on it because I know that then it's going to become automatic and it's going to be easy. So it really is giving yourself permission to have it be hard when you start and to stack little tiny wins of first establishing a habit and then building it. And what I mean by that is, for example, if you want to start a yoga practice every day, well, first start with getting the yoga mat out at the same time every day. And that's going to do, right? And then do the next thing. So yeah, I think that having the right action strategy it's worth spending some time thinking through what's actually going to work for you and what's actually sustainable, and making sure that before you set up this big action plan, that you're not setting yourself up in a way that's just going to create more evidence that you suck and that you can't do it.
Yeah. Because that's not going to get us anywhere. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so how about we actually walk through this in a practical way, right?
Yeah.
Like, can we just take one example and sort of walk it down the line so that they can start to think about what would work for them?
Yes. For action, are you looking at all four areas?
All four.
All four. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the first question I will say first is, take a minute to, if you're wondering, well, where do I start? What do I need? I know the answer, in that I know that you know the answer, right? As you're listening, take a minute to think. When you think about potentially being able to shift your perspective and your mindset and giving some attention there, or you think about maybe attending to some of your emotions, getting support with that, and you think about maybe paying more attention to when your nervous system activation is happening so you can attend to that. Or you think about some simple actions you might put in place. I think the best thing your listeners can do is just which one is calling to them to focus on first. Yeah.
Yeah. So one that I get, I'm just kind of thinking of what I want it to be most useful for the audience. And I think one thing that continues to come up just over and over is how to, I get the question, how do I move past the sadness, or how do I move past the anger towards the other co-parent when they call, or at transition time, or how do I move through the sadness and loneliness that I feel when my child is with the other parent? And so I'm curious how you would feel about sort of talking about sort of those big feelings that then create a lot of just sort of messy, tangled up stuff in our life, and often behaviors that we're not happy with. And so what do you think about that as an example?
I think that's a perfect place to start, because regardless, focusing on that first is going to, that's the thing. It's like there are these 4 areas, right? But wherever you start and focus, there's going to be a spillover onto all of the others. So as you're addressing these emotions, right, there are going to be shifts in your mindset. You're going to have, better regulation of the nervous system and take better action. So I love that one. And I will say, I am 100% an advocate of each of you having support in your personal life, right? I mean, obviously, I'm a believer in coaching. I work with coaches to be the support for all of you. I have multiple people I'm working with all the time to help me, and to help me with my emotions.
Yeah.
Because I think it's vital. So I'm going to tell you some things you can do on your own. And by all means, if you can get support and help with Mikki, or, well, of course, I think you should use Mikki for this, right? But
there's others.
Either way, right? Like, give yourself that support.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, going through a divorce and having your life turn out so differently than you imagined for most people, many people here, it's almost like it brings this big, like these tangled threads of emotions, right? And sometimes the emotions can be overwhelming, because there is sadness, there's grief, there's anger, there are fears. It's all there. And one of the little things that you can do is just take a little bit of time every day to care about how you feel. Okay. So my daughter comes home from school and she's had a bad day. And what I've learned, as I've learned to become a more supportive mom in what she needs, it's better for me to not push her to talk, or try to fix it, or give her solutions, or even distract her, although sometimes that can be helpful. What she really wants is, she wants me to be with her and care about how she feels. So what this looks like for that, the reason I'm giving this external example is I think many of your listeners, it's much easier for us to attend to others than it is to ourselves. So we're going to bring it back, right? But this happened just yesterday with my daughter. She came home, bad day. I plopped down on the couch with her. I listened to her. I tell her I'm sorry she's feeling the way she is. She lays on my lap. We hug. That was exactly what my daughter needed. And that is exactly what all of you need. And you can ask for it from people around you, and you can give it to yourself. There's a place for both. So what this looks like is, you're feeling a lot of emotions. Instead of trying to stay busy so you don't have to face them, or instead of, getting caught in a thought swirl, trying to talk yourself out of those feelings, take the time to write down your feeling, and even writing like this love note to yourself saying, I'm so sorry self, right? For me, like, Molly, I hate that you're feeling this way. This is really hard. It matters that you feel this way. Just expressing through journal writing or dialogue in your head or even out loud to yourself, attending to the way you feel and giving that comfort as you would to another is honestly one of the most life-changing things you can do.
Mm-hmm. I love that you sort of stated that, because it really is to be as much, we just want to be heard and seen and know that it's reasonable, right? That our feelings matter and that
That's right.
it's, it's okay to be feeling this way. And so to
That's
actually
right.
carve out 5 minutes of your day to do that
Yep.
can
Yep.
make such a difference.
Yep.
Yeah.
And another thing you can all do is like set a little alarm in your phone for a few times a day that just says, take a minute to care about how you feel.
Oh,
And
that's
what
a
this
great
can look
idea.
like is a check-in, right? Where I put my hand over my heart and I can close my eyes for a second and just say, hey, how are you feeling? Right? Talking to myself, how are you feeling? I care about however you're feeling. Like just that, it creates, going back to what you were saying about these neural pathways, right? That are like right now, maybe they're saying, you need to get over this. You shouldn't be feeling this way. You've got to handle this. Now we're creating a pattern that says, hey, I care about how you feel. I care what's
Exactly.
going on. And what this does is not only does it create that new pathway of thought, but it kind of softens everything, right? It softens the emotions. It softens those potentially heightened responses of the nervous system. It softens and opens up the ability to take better actions. It softens what's inside so we can have a more clear mindset, right? So this is an example of when I attend to those emotions, it allows space for those areas of change in my cognition, with my nervous system, with the actions. So that's what's really cool. We don't have to know it all. We don't have to figure it all out. We can take one simple action and it has that spillover. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
go ahead. Oh, and go.
well, here's my other secret weapon when it comes to emotions. So sometimes when I'm having emotions, I need to cry, and it can be very hard for me to cry on my own. So you know what I do? I call one of my cry partners. One of my main cry partners is Mikki Gardner. She knows this is true because I'm like, Mikki, I need to cry. Can I cry to you? She says, yes, you can cry to me.
Anytime.
And so that's the other thing. It's if you're focusing on the emotion piece, you can attend to it for you and rally the people who will just be willing to let you have emotions with them. People who aren't going to tell you what to do, unless you want it. Sometimes we want that, right? Like, hey, give me guidance or give me advice. But have those people that are willing to just care about how you feel, let you cry to them so that you have it internally for you and you're building that support on the outside too.
Oh, such a good point to make. And it's important because we try to hold it in, right? We try to hold everything in. And especially as moms, right? We sneak to the bathroom or to the, garage and cry on the floor. Only reinforcing that you shouldn't be crying. Right? Like this idea that you should be hiding away. And so it's so important to allow your feelings to be there. And I love what you just said. It's sort of by accessing them, we're actually starting to tell our brain that's okay to do that. We're telling our nervous system it's okay to be here, right? And creating sort of on all the different points that you brought us today on that foundation of change to be able to move through it. So it's so important that we do that.
It's such a gentle.
Oh, wait, it's frozen. I'm going to kill my computer. Sorry, Sharon. Okay, I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I think I know where I was.
Okay, go.
It just creates such a gentle process for change because oftentimes we want to white knuckle our way to make changes. It feels so hard. We feel, fearful that we won't do it. And I actually love, Mikki, that you had us focus on the emotion piece because, like right now as I'm talking, even just what I've shared, I'm feeling so relaxed. I'm feeling so grounded. And when I'm in this space, it just makes it so easy to take the actions that serve me in my life. And it doesn't have to be this big checklist or accountability thing. I'm just in a place mentally and emotionally to be able to create what I want.
Yeah, I love that you said that, because it is by accessing and by allowing, what if it's the sadness or the anger, by actually calming ourselves and allowing ourselves to experience it, then we can ask that question of now what, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Now, what am I going to do? And Molly and I can't give you an answer on what the next step is, right? You have that. And by being able to respond in all these different ways, we're able to access that knowledge. And what is the next step? Even if you don't know it, it's what's one step to start to move into the area that I want to change? What's one step to, move us closer to that? And so I think it's so important that I really appreciate what you have brought to us today. And, I think we do have to do a, many day series, because I love talking to you and I feel like we could keep going. But
yeah,
out of respect for time, if there was one thing that you really wanted the audience to know sort of now, one thing that they could do, I mean, I think you just gave a beautiful example of something, but is there anything else you want them to know?
Yeah, I think that I just want you to know that you are capable of so much more than you realize. I mean, you really are. You are your children or child's or children's parent for a reason. You have everything in you to be the parent that they need. You don't have to parent like anyone else. You get to parent like you and build connection with your child. So I want you to know you have more abilities in you than you realize. Do not quit on yourself, and commit that you will surround yourself with people that believe in you and give you the exact support you need, because you deserve it and it matters.
Yes. I feel like we need to just make a little audiogram of what you just said and play it every morning.
Right? I know.
Yes.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
Because it's what we do need in surrounding yourself and doing this work. And I know that each of the people listening, right, that's who they are. And they're trying their darndest. And I applaud you for all the brave things you're doing. And I really hope that today's conversation opened up, right? Not into this like do 1, 2, and 3 or steps X, Y, Z, but opened up a little bit of curiosity, a little bit of loving awareness on how you can start to create some change. And I think we probably should dive into another conversation around this, but I think it's a beautiful place to wrap up for today. Thank you, Molly, for coming, for your wisdom, and for being you.
Yes, you are so welcome. So nice to be here. And anytime, I'm always up for a good conversation with all of you.
I love that. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Masterful Coach podcast. Are you ready to build your amazing business with Molly as your coach? Check out www.mollyclaire.com to find out about Masterful Coach Foundations and the 10K Accelerator Method. It's the ultimate support for you as a coach building your ideal life and business.